Recording in progress.
Yes.
It has begun.
All right.
Dear listeners, you have arrived.
Welcome
Where?
to Always Strikes Last.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Welcome to Always Strikes Last in actuality. I'm Miles, and of course I'm joined by Matt and Jack. Jack currently exploring how far east he can go before it stops being east again.
The most east, really.
Nice.
We've expanded upon our normal, let's try to be in 3 different time zones at once approach to recording. We're really taking the nth degree with Miles in Ireland, myself in Taipei, and of course, Matt taking up residence in the West Coast of the United States.
There we go.
Yeah, we've gone full continental.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sun never sets and it always strikes last empire.
There we go. Total domination plan engaged.
Indeed.
Let's see. We do have. I hope everybody had good holidays. Right, it's our first episode after whatever holiday. If you had a holiday, I hope it was a good one.
And if you didn't, then your next one's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Get ready. Buckle up. So yeah, getting back into it. Lots of new exciting Age of Sigmar junk to talk about. I know I saw the announcement yesterday. LVO is going ahead with the new points, but not the new General's Handbook. Does that sound right? I think I saw that.
I did not even check
because
it almost seems like crimes right there to give Slaanesh such a boost right away. Where's the masochism in that?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it was on their Twitter, so take that with a grain of salt. So LVO is coming up for people in the western part of the United States or anybody with access to a plane. Really? That's exciting. Matt, are you going?
No, I had to hold back this year. I say that repeatedly, but I missed the ticket buy-in this year and then missed it again when they had a few more open up. And then by the time that, there's always that last mad dash of people being like, I made plans and it was dumb. Buy my ticket.
That was always I don't know if listeners or you guys ever went to PAX, Penny Arcade Expo for video games and stuff. But that was the same thing because I would remember dutifully for years, getting into line right as the tickets open up and making sure I got my pass and all that kind of stuff. And then our friend Ian would just it's this weekend? Cool. How do I get in? and somehow he would. And it was so maddening. I was so mad, so irritated every time that he pulled. It was Ian, I have been preparing for this day for months. You don't just walk in.
It's so funny that you bring up that anecdote because I remember those vividly as well. I think that our approaches to PAX East were good. Not to go on this wild tangent, but let's introduce that briefly. I was halfway between you with your duty and Ian with his, wild lack of planning there. I was kind of a Wesley Snipes style day walker because I would sometimes buy one ticket, but never end up going 3 days because they were pretty easy to get a hold of due to that whole last minute. I really can't use my 3-day pass. What do I do with it? Factor.
Yeah, exactly. Or I bought a 3-day pass, but I'm good. You can go. You can take my 3-day pass for Sunday.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I would equate that to a Bumbershoot out here before it became ridiculous. Well, even while it's ridiculous, people go for 2 days, not need the last one, and then you're like,
sure.
Cool. Well, here's a ton.
But of course, it doesn't do you any good, Matt, if you're not already in Las Vegas.
Yep. Which is why when somebody posts, "Hey, I've got to sell a ticket 1 week before," You're kind of just like, well,
I don't really want to fly Spirit. I think I'm okay.
That's true. It's inevitably a Spirit flight there.
I have somehow dodged that bullet. Never been on Spirit.
I am also not going this particular year. I'll not have to push it off the next one for the stars align. The Type A factored into that a bit.
No, sure, but that's it. I'm sure we'll all grace Las Vegas with our presidents. Before too long. But regardless, there is plenty of new updates for Age of Sigmar coming down the pipe. We got the new Battlescroll Galatian Champions January 2023. What a title!
It's a mouthful. It is a mouthful.
That's a great one to try and say 3 times fast.
Yeah. So that's exciting. So that just dropped yesterday, I think, at the time of recording. I don't, depending on when you are listening, it probably won't be yesterday. Let's the highlights real quick. Daughters of Cain lost some extra points they had on some of their secondaries, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that was a big one, right? Because they were basically, really, really easy to turn 2 into 3.
Fair enough.
Just by kind of like showing up.
I mean, and that's kind of the only sort of rules change I'm seeing along with this packet. And then other than that, it's just all the new points.
Yeah, and the new points are interesting, right? So there's quite a bit of swing here, and I was talking briefly with Charles about it a bit, and we were trying to figure out, like, what are the things that got the point swings, and it's inevitably every army that I collect and the units that I collect are the ones that take the point swings up, because I go for the trash. Like I'm all about that raccoon life. And so, like, what is it? Fire Slayers got a huge boost, just almost across the board. Everything.
Oh yeah, look at them.
Some points taken green off. So, but the hilarious part about it is, with like how expensive the army is already, you'll probably only get 1 unit out of it, right?
I mean, that's okay though.
Yeah, and especially with Galatian Champions, you're gonna get a lot of fun playing the extra wound character subfaction. I can't remember them off the top of my head.
Sure.
And then Jack is going to be super happy.
I was very pleased.
Oh yeah.
I see. This is something that I love doing. Is I love waiting and not actually like really going through and looking at all the points. What I love doing is having my list currently set up for everything, because I have a list for every army just in case I want to play it, and I'll sit there and tinker with it. Right. Mm-hmm. I love seeing how many more units I can then fit into that previous list.
Yeah.
By just updating the app and just going, oh, well, that was nice.
Nary a points increase
I do a similar
for it looks like Sigvald went up 5 points, but I think that's because they went and got rid of all of the 5-point costs, which was just very nice of them.
It's true, and it's not such a big tax. He also got a massive points decrease before this. I think it was like 260 or something initially, so he's okay. I'll take it.
And I think of all the characters, he was pretty much an auto take in almost every Slanesh list that you would run into. So I don't think
I saw him a lot.
Yeah,
I don't think it's not gonna be a meh on him.
The thing is, he looks good, he feels good, feels the breeze, he knows how to get it done. He has a cool, unique ability. His hair is luscious.
Yeah, walks on air.
Willing to pay the points.
Right. Yeah. I'm loving this. Just scrolling through Maggot-Kin and Nurgle. They got some points drops. A lot of just sort of core things. Nothing with wings. Clearly got a points drop, but
Yeah, it's cool to see
one thing I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one trend I think I've seen is looking at these has been as bigger swings that we've seen with this. It's not all plus or minus 10. There's some pretty substantial shifts.
Yeah. Like here you go, yeah. Screaming Bell -45. I thought I saw Glotkin was -50.
The Screaming Bell being -45 is needed. That thing is so expensive for what little it does.
Yeah,
like, everybody's all like, "Oh," but your initial reaction is like, "Oh, I'm gonna get another horned rat," and I have never been able to make it happen. Because if you're just looking for it to happen, you're looking to actually throw that thing in harm's way, and it's just too many points to do that for.
Is it still roll double sixes?
No, it's roll under a certain amount.
Okay.
After you have the wounds, and then if you roll certain dice anyways, you're screwed and it blows up. So
nice.
It's promise of that though is so alluring. I'm right there with you, man.
I remember. I think this might have been the first time I played our friend Matt Beasley. He had a list. This was with the old Bell, where it was just roll 2 6s and you got a free, Vermin Lord.
Yep.
And he had allied in Tzeentch to have a Kairos, so that he could, as soon as he rolls 1 6, you Kairos the other one.
Yep.
To get the free Vermin Lord. And he was like, this is not a good idea. This is not a good list. I've never gotten the free Vermin Lord and I really want it.
Still, good engineering. Good engineering there.
Yeah. He's building it for one purpose. It should fulfill that purpose. Well done. Good job. I think it's interesting seeing how these points are coming out. I haven't watched their competitive breakdown video yet.
Oh, I haven't watched it either. That would have been good research for this. Oh well.
Yeah.
Next time on Always Strikes Last, we'll tell you what we thought of this video. That'll have been out for.
Didn't strike first on this one. We'll get there.
But it is very interesting to see these points decreases and wondering how they are looking to see how that works with the new GHB rules. Right? It's from the leaks. What we're seeing is there's only going to be one battle tactic that you can get in your own deployment zone, and they're pushing for people to have smaller characters. Right, that's how you get a lot of battle tactics. So I think they're kind of pricing that in right now to make things just more bloody.
Sure. You can afford a little bit more, and therefore you can afford to have this additional tax of a few smaller characters in addition to whatever else you were bringing.
I think that's fair, and to Matt's point, they really seem like they're going to be pretty necessary. Like I think looking at those leaks, it occurred to me that a pretty significant percentage of the tactics were just off the table. Just off the table if you didn't have a whole bunch of Galatian champions kicking around to activate them, which of course makes it so much more likely you're going to drop battle tactics throughout the course of a game and just lose if you don't come prepared with that. So I think they've really forced you to deal with it in a way they did not with the last.
I mean, I do think this most recent book was a good step in the right direction, because that first book, the first one out for third ed, whatever it was called back in the day, in the before times. I think you were making a mistake if you ever dropped a secondary in that book. And
or you were me and just
or you were Matt. One of the two. Definitely a 50-50 shot there. And then in this most recent book, I find I can get 4 usually. Unless and occasionally, I'll find myself in that situation where it's like, oh shit, like I and so that's I feel like that's a good place, and I feel like they're pushing us even farther, where it's like, okay, if you're playing really well, you should expect 3.
Well, and the funny thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the other leaked rumor that I saw was that you're not getting an extra point for battle tactics now. Now they're just 2, right? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, it looked like they were all just 2. There were no 2 optional ones. So that could be the reason for that Daughters of Cain tweak as well.
Yeah, and
I think that's right.
And so it's really interesting that they're kind of I think what this does is actually addresses a problem or a perceived problem that I've seen from some grumbles in various discords of like book battle tactics being too good or too easy to take.
Sure.
So and Zinch apparently
they have some easy ones.
Yeah, from a discussion I was having with Charles was saying like Zinch can't really castle anymore because they don't have those auto take ones that you can get in your deployment zone anymore. So now you have to be a movement army instead of just, okay, here's 3 ones that are pretty much guaranteed on my side of the board. If I,
eye for an eye, you potentially gaining momentum, and what's the other one?
The one with the galley vets.
Or just the one that's stand on an objective.
Yep. And so now that those are going away, I'm actually really kind of excited because I love small character armies, like giant monsters, Archaon only lists and stuff like that. To me, just kind of are a little bit boring. Like that's how I feel about it. That doesn't make it true. Sure. But it forces movement across the board. So there's less of those. It feels like there's going to be less reason to form these giant Death Stars, and more reason for movement.
Well, we're definitely going to find out. I mean, looking at my list, what I was running, I mean, that's a little bit interesting because I feel like we're all going to be hitting that 6 leader cap really hard. And I was already hitting the 6 leader cap.
Yeah, I mean, me too. And like, even like there are very few lists that I have where it's monster leaders, like the spiders, it's kind of mandatory.
Sure.
But like even like maybe Beast of Chaos if I go all Gorgons. But even then I'm still filling out my 6 cap because I want shamans here, I want stuff there, I want Doom Bulls and stuff. I love it.
I mean, so for Iron Jaws, like, yes, I got 2. Okay, I have 2 Maw Crushers, fair enough. But then I'm also taking 2 War Chantas, and I would take a 3rd one if I had points for it. And a Weird Knob. Pretty much every single list, because the buffs that they give out are so important to the army.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, even just in the way you said it there, is like you have the 2 Maw Crushers, that's the heart of the list, or one of like the of course you bring them, when you're doing like Iron Jaws, but they're not doing anything for you with the whole galley vet thing. They're
not at all. Yeah.
Kind of a weird. They're kind of like taking a knock for this whole book. Any cool character who's a big fighty, fly around guy who was maybe in the big leagues in the early book, prior to this one, or even this going into the first Galatian veterans bid, now has a bit of a pause.
Well, and it's funny because like I'm taking that in the other way, right? Like, so now that they aren't like held up to the standard of, I need to use this monster character to keep it alive, to take a battle tactic or anything like that. They're free to do what they should be doing, which is just cause havoc. You don't have to worry about like those specific thing or those specific models staying alive to a certain point. So you can be a little bit more risky with them and actually throw them into something that that if you
there's
throw
a solid shot, they don't make it.
Well, but there's also like, if there's a solid shot that you could wipe a unit with 2 of them making that charge, instead of saying, I'll need them later to hold this tactic that I haven't gotten yet or something like that, you can actually use those models in that kind of like more more risky way, as opposed
Very
to
fair point.
Having battle tactics later. So I do like that, that it's giving those bigger units that freedom.
Here's a thought for you guys. Do you think shooting is going to come back or go up in a significant way?
I expect it.
Do you mean in points, or do you mean in presence?
In presence, in meta presence.
I expect it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like shooting is in an upward curve until they figure out the Shadow Realm where nobody can shoot.
No, fair.
12 inches
but
max.
I actually think so obviously the thing you want to shoot with your shooting army is all of the Galatian heroes, right? The champions, because that turns off a lot of scoring for reasons we've talked about already. But there's only the one battalion that can even target those guys half the time, and you can only have 3 units in it. So I feel like, I feel like we're gonna see a lot of armies make sure they have that one elite sniping unit, but that sniping unit is actually not any more effective than it was in the previous book. You're just more likely to make sure you've taken one.
I have a couple of thoughts on that.
Right?
I think we're definitely going to see.
Yeah.
Oh, continue, Miles. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Like Lookout, Sir is still there, right? So they're not any. These little heroes are not any easier to snipe off the board.
Well, that's true. They do have that additional layer of protection because now they're just things which can't do it.
Right, and you can't snipe them with magic or other bullshittery. Right,
you can snipe them with magic.
You can. So
they can't be targeted, I thought.
Nope. I see Croclus going straight through the roof.
Yeah.
Because those will still kill off a character. Because it's only shooting, and that's not shooting.
Yeah.
Teclis could come back. Could see Teclis coming back.
Yep. Teclis will definitely come back.
Some Hallowheart fun, or just dumping endless spells across all the other little heroes or something.
Yep. I see that being a big thing for a little while until somebody figures out the counter for it, and then the meta overreacts. No, I definitely see shooting as a big thing.
Hang on, now I gotta go scroll see what happened to Crow, because I saw Seraphon had a lot of red in it.
I hope so.
I love going up there.
There we go.
While you're doing that, let me just throw out a thought on the whole sniping battalion. I kind of wish it wasn't even there. I wish there wasn't an obvious counter to some of the hero stuff. As long as someone's willing to kind of give them their lookouts or entourage, because I feel like 3 units is more than enough. Where if you do have good foot shooting, you're going to be coming up as a winner here and be able to really take out the key characters. Not necessarily good reprisal, but if you're an army where your shooting that's good at doing that is not something you could put in that battalion, and you don't have good magic like a Cinch or like a Hellheart or something, you're going to have a hard time getting to them, and it's going to be a bit asymmetrical, I think. In
that's a good point.
Army's ability to deal with problems.
Because I think I got absolutely destroyed by some new ogres recently, and then I lost to them in Warhammer. But yeah, I had a war chanter die to a cannon, and that's just not going to happen anymore, right? Because that cannon cannot be in that battalion.
Absolutely,
and that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
A good example.
There is the shooting that does exist is the same. Has not gotten any better, right? If you are an infantry shooting unit that can go in that battalion, you still have to deal with Lookout, Sir, because you're guaranteed that this unit is next to its retinue, right? Or is next to it, right? So it's not gotten any more effective, and we've just turned off the ability for these things to get sniped by cannons.
Yeah,
which does help,
I think.
Or KO boats.
Yeah. I think initially, though, we will see kind of an overreaction. I can just hear Stormcast players yelling Mirror Shield on their one tank character that they are hoping to live for the entire game. Because Stellance with Mirror Shield is the first thing I think is going to happen, right? So they're just +1 saving themselves and then throwing Mirror Shield. So only if you're within, I think it's 9 or 12. And then about half the books have something to that effect. With with Fire Slayer builds. I can see the priest now putting up those walls of can't see me. And then additionally, I would expect Lumineth to actually get a real boon here, because they'll always have visibility, right? Now with the archers still ignore that.
No, they got rid of that.
I have not fought Lumineth since their book came out.
Yeah, that was a big. I mean, they still have unreasonable range. They're still 30-inch shooting, looking for 5s and 6s to do mortal wounds. But no, they lost the ignore line of sight.
But they can just.
I said that very confidently, so I'm going to double check that.
I also said that very confidently, so I didn't.
It's no longer in here. Yeah, what happens is they get an extra 6 inches of range if they're next to another unit instead of ignore line of sight.
Oh, that's excellent. I'll take it.
Of course, even without the ignore line of sight, they're still good candidates for the sniper battalion.
Yeah, just by weight numbers alone.
Yeah, I mean, if you do get shots onto a character, you're still like the -1 to hit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that was true. But again, that was true before these battalions existed.
So maybe it just amplifies certain units that were already really good at this, right?
Yeah.
Because now they're in contrast of the other units, like say crossbows that were, we throw a ton down the field and see what happens. Well, now throwing a ton down the field may not work out as well as you wanted it to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. Like some elite shooting, yes, is going to take off, but I don't see like Underguts and KO dominating the meta with just like everybody's got a gun kind of lists.
I think that's true. I mean, because it's not going to be a perfect counter anymore to the problems they face. I mean, the biggest thing I see coming out of like the shooting escalation where it works is just if someone has the tools to erase a couple key characters so that those battle tactics can't be scored and they can score them easily themselves by being able to protect them. Conversely, it's going to be, a good path to victory for a lot of armies. So I think that's going to be a really interesting factor, that the stocks of those units which can go in the battalion and perform efficiently are just going to be through the roof. Whereas stuff like, iron blasters or, catapults of different types, they're probably not going to be the be all end all, right? No, the war chanter's safe as long as he's near something, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I actually see an interesting counter meta coming out of this too.
All cannons.
No. So just I can imagine I can imagine that fast-moving armies may get an edge in this because they'll be able to trap characters a little bit easier.
Sure.
So unmounted foot armies, let's say like Twin Souls from Slanesh, probably see Reavers, which can fill double duty from Ideneth, which are all very fast for just being little footsies. Yeah, stuff like that. Even skink armies, possibly. Just being able to move up the table quicker, keeping their retinues strong and grabbing objectives early on in the game.
I feel like I would not want to put skinks unless I didn't have any other choice. I would not want to put skinks in that battalion, only because. And now I'm not saying there isn't a case for it, but like I would much rather put salamanders in there or something like that. Something that.
I'm not thinking about putting them in the battalion. I'm thinking of counter meta as a whole, right? Like the battalion itself, like I just see it as a bounty hunters. It's going to disproportionately twist some things that are going to like settle the meta. And there's going to be like, why would that unit fit in bounty hunters? Why does it have to be in that, right? Like Dragon Ogres, a major one, right? Why should I ever be able to put a unit of Dragon Ogres in bounty hunters? Especially with damage to like re-rolling everything, right? That just that's painful.
I I see you're saying. I see you're saying there, Matt. I agree with you on that.
I definitely am feeling that looking at my new list going into this new season because so my old list was the 2 Maw Crushes. I had 9 of the Gore Gruntas in Bounty Hunters, right? And then I had some Brutes, which were mostly there for flavor and mostly there because I didn't want to paint 3 more Gore Gruntas. And then my War Chantas and my Weird Knob and that kind of stuff to fill it out. But like those Gore Gruntas, everybody's like, oh my God, the pigs, guys, they're such blenders. They're really only such blenders when they've got the buff from the War Chanter and they're in a Bounty Hunter battalion and they're hitting their favorite target.
Yep. Yeah. Otherwise, they can bounce right off. I've had that happen several times. And with Skaven too, like my Eshin list, I've had a unit of Gore Gruntas just whiff and just sit there against Eshin, which they should be a fine rat paste after a Gore Grunta charge, right?
Oh, seriously. I mean, they're not exactly the heavily armored rat men, are they?
Yeah. So Gore Gruntas are just kind of swingy sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Especially
the whole Iron Jaws thing there. It's all about, high value attacks, low number, high value attacks, which is, of course, what you're not supposed to be doing theoretically, but can't help myself.
Hey.
Here we are.
Oh yeah.
But that does bring up a point of contention with me and the past couple of GHBs. They really, really just hate mounted models. So for me, this is another like, come on, give me Plains of Gur because all of my armies are mounted. Just give me Plains of Gur. Let me have all of my characters on mounts.
Just you wait.
6 to 12 months, Matt. It'll be there. I bet you it'll be next.
They're gonna run out of ideas eventually.
Well, I mean, they're gonna get to artillery before they do that.
Yeah. Well, and actually, Matt, what you need to do, I'll get the dates for this, but you need to make a trip over here because in I want to say the summer sometime, my local group is putting on. I think it's going to be a 2-day event, and it's called Mount Me, and it's the only units available are those with a mount.
Well, see, this brings in an interesting problem because the name of the event makes me want to bring Slaanesh. Yeah, but
you have to really.
There's no mounted characters in Slaanesh that aren't chariots, and that just feels like I'm not really having one, steed saying mount me. I'm having a whole chariot say mount me, which chariot orgy maybe, but like it's a fine line here about where I'm going to jump on it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to bring in the Coalition, Chaos Lord on Karkadrak, Chaos Lord on Demonic Steed.
There you go. Yeah.
I had that converted Chaos K Lord, on the old Seed of Slaanesh model with some modifications. He'd be very good for both the double entendres and the Spirit of Venom.
I have that model as well. I got to put him on a new base.
We had a very long discussion about like what constituted a mount and like our companions' mounts because sometimes they are in the rules and sometimes they aren't, and sometimes they're treated as if it's a mount. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What is that exactly? We decided unless the character actually rides on it for transportation, it's not a mount.
So Discs of Zinch are still in. It's fine.
Discs of Zinch are still in. The little winged bug that hangs out with the Arch Revenant is out.
Yes, because that's just a backpack.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's a backpack.
That seems an accurate assessment of what it is.
I mean, so who do we think's coming strong out of this?
In the GHB or in Mount Me?
Oh, GHB.
The GHB. Okay, back to the serious stuff.
I'm pivoting.
I think we'll see. I think to your point earlier, I think we'll see a resurgence in Lumineth. I mean, nothing was more frustrating than fighting those early tech lists than just having all of your I was fighting them with the last Slaves of Darkness book, and that one needed all those little characters to even operate, and it was the most frustrating thing ever. So I could see that coming back in a big way.
I'll throw out a couple thoughts on it. I think the big winners here are any heavy magic capable armies who can get around the restrictions.
For targeting.
Any of the lucky shooting armies who just happen to have the units which fit the whole sniping bill, kind of like you were saying, Miles.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I think any army that has a built-in counter to the sniper is actually able to target the character anyway. And I'm thinking about characters with built-in retinue rules. Stuff like a Tyrant with Iron Guts, or like Chaos Lords with like Warriors or Chosen and stuff, where you can shoot them, but they can still shrug it off to the 3+, or Necromancers with zombies, or anything like that.
So I'm going to go with specific armies. And I think the one that's going to win the biggest, and nobody seems to expect it because they're always kind of, the redheaded stepchild.
It's Orcs, isn't it?
It's Night Haunt.
Oh,
Night Haunt follow every single one of those.
No, that's true.
To a T. And in addition to that, they can achieve that kind of critical mass with small characters because the army is built around it.
Yeah. So they're already good at small character shenanigans.
Yep.
In a game that wasn't even geared for it beforehand.
Yeah, that's like their core mechanic. So I think that we could see a resurgence, or we could see an actual competitive Night Haunt start climbing up. Night Haunt's a big one. I see Slaanesh coming back big in the interim just because of the point drops and the speed, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm anticipating.
It's very true.
I'm definitely anticipating Gits coming back big when they get their new book. I know now their book is just a little too janky but the fact that they got no points updates means that it's got to be, it's this quarter,
I mean,
right around the corner.
And I feel like
absolutely right.
The great thing is, like, since they brought the points down to where they kind of need to be, the army itself is like, it's solid. It still gets though, right? So it's following the old book logic, the same problem that a lot of other older books had, which was, we just need one more damage here, we just need one more rend here, and the army functions perfectly. So like when they get the new book, we'll definitely see a resurgence. I don't feel that army will ever be like S tier competitive because of the nature of the army.
But I think it also, at this point, it's been so tacked on and pasted and like added to and then removed and then added to again. Like it's such a hodgepodge of a book that just clearing that stuff up, getting itself out of its own way. There's plenty of things in the Git strategy. Like part of their whole shenanigans was that like they could have way more command points than anybody else, and that was really interesting in second edition.
Yep.
Because you could spam command abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can't do that. There's like a really finite, hard limit on how many command points you can spend in a phase. And so.
Yeah.
So the fact that they can get like 6 million command points is not that interesting.
Yeah,
it's very true.
It's an old book and it shows. Fire Slayers I think are going to come out real big. The people who have been collecting Fire Slayers since the new book dropped and are like, well, this is underwhelming, are suddenly going to look at their book and go, I've got the retinues, I've got ways of stopping shooting. Like those are going to be big.
I don't know who's saying that it's underwhelming. I've been fighting Magmadroths, and they are the worst thing ever.
Well, Magmadroths, that's Fire Slayer's book Magmadroth, right? Like the 5 Magmadroth
but also,
has been just disturbing to fight against. But like, and the classic Bean foot army, you don't really see him, and it'll be interesting because that's really, really good. In
some ways, that's the most satisfying thing about this GHB. It's really driving this cool, like, iteration of the game.
Yeah, it's like a new edition every time.
That's fun.
It's so true.
I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So related then, but what are we thinking in light of this new GHB for our armies this season? What are we all leaning towards?
I mean, I'm plowing ahead full steam with these orcs. I'm building out some cruel boys to have a little bit of big Wah synergy, just to try it out. Dip my toe in the water. But I do have 10 more brutes on my painting table right now, and I've got 50 more Ardboys coming from a friend. So I will be all set in terms of orc infantry.
I'm still on that deciding line, having too many armies to choose from.
Yeah.
Right now, what it's looking like, and only because they did so well, like completely blew my expectations out of the water at Squigmas. Is Slanesh. I have a couple more Twin Souls to put together. Choice. And the points drops, I can't wait for that, because I'll check my app afterwards, see how much more units I can throw in. But the fact that even the Keeper went down 30 points puts them in a good spot until we get the book. And, by the time we get the book, I'll already have my new Beast of Chaos book, so I can finally move back to Beast of Chaos. So I can stop playing the game of my army's broken.
Yeah.
But
I feel like Beast of Chaos are gonna be huge in this GHB situation.
Yeah,
no doubt. Though, what is the new book going to look like? It's such an X factor.
What was that?
And they've got such a roster of different units that, you have so many good infantry heroes. You have so many good different types of infantry, right? And you have just tons of utility pieces to so I'm just really interested to see what they come out with.
I do agree with that.
If they go up against a Croclist or a Techless list, and they're running they're running according to the new GHB, they're still going to get trounced, because they suffer the same problem that you were having with your Slaves of Darkness. Only there's no way to get shrugs in the army at all. So, so Croak and Techless are an immediate counter to them. So you're literally running the gauntlet, just getting to them. But outside of that, they have, if somebody is actually going to dedicate their time to go all in on a Footslog army, which I am going to do because I've got it already. It's the fastest army in the game. People don't realize it, but you get a Great Brace Shaman next to a bunch of Bestigors.
Oh, no, they're all plus
they
3
can run in charge, plus 3. And then a 4-inch pylon. So
pretty blistering speed for a bunch of guys on foot for sure.
Well, I mean,
they're on clip-clops. They're not on. Yeah.
They're clippity-cloppity.
Oh, you're right.
Not even coconuts. They actually got the hooves.
Half a horse there.
Yeah, so I could actually see a couple of maybe what is it? I can't remember the battalion limit, but I think it's 3 heroes can go in the battalions for the 1-drop. So I can see a bunch of 2-drop lists just rushing the field, holding middle objectives and spreading, and just making somebody's life hell. And they're still cheap. So, I mean, even if you want to do gore now, they're actually worth it in Galatian Vets. But now that they have the support of the little characters, because people aren't going to be jumping into Dragon Ogres and Shaggoth for the Galley Vets bonus, or for the Bounty Hunters bonus, then they have a little bit more room to play with. And I would expect to also see the amount of Bulgor spam list just jump as well, because they fall into that criteria.
They're infantry, yeah.
It's fair. Though one thing we really have to note with this, and this is what I was going to say earlier, is pretty quickly the new book's going to come out, and I haven't seen anything on what it's actually going to contain. So it could be very different.
Yeah. For
Beast Chaos reality.
For all the leaks that we've gotten from GW, they are absolutely keeping that Beast of Chaos book under lock and key.
I think it's so. Here's my sad man theory. It's because we have so many old kits that, and the fact that we're only getting one model that we know of right now, that we're gonna lose a lot of units.
Maybe.
And I see that as a pretty big potential. Like if we don't get Senegor in this edition,
I see Razor Gores maybe going away.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
I mean, but
as much as I love the old models,
did they come out with a new Jabberslice?
They did not, but the Jabberslice model is so nice.
No, it is, but like that's one I would put on if I was picking stuff that I think might go away.
Well, I mean, we're looking at plastic with that, right?
List.
Not fine casts. So I think fine casts are the ones that are up for review. So that's why I'm targeting Senegors.
Right? Isn't Jabberslice?
No, they're plastic, I believe.
Are they plastic?
I thought they were.
It was
either
a
that
pretty
or Kirk has the really old one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
anyway.
So what I see is the book getting pared back a little bit. If we don't get Tuscarora Chariots, I'm not holding out that much hope for them. It's just I think they're probably going to pare down the book and maybe kind of balance it. But I don't know. We may even lose the Gargan.
All those most recent cockatrice owners super sad.
God, I hope so.
That would be awful. That would be awful.
It'd be such rage.
I love how everybody loves that model. They've always loved that model. I'm like, no, cockatrice. No.
It's fine. The one Kirk has painted up is quite nice. Yeah, it's enjoyable. I don't know that I need to see 8 of them.
400. Yeah, 400 cockatrice on every table.
I would be upset if I can't use my Chimera or my cockatrice. I mean, that'd be no fun.
I would love to see just a little bit more balance on the actual war scrolls for them, and then pull some kind of rending mechanic on the size of the units because they don't feel good playing MSU. It doesn't feel like a Beastman army, right? You want hordes of them. So I could see something in the vein of like Skaven, where if you have 10, you're at -1 Rend on Bestigor. If you have 20, you have -2 Rend on Bestigor. If you have 30, you're at -3 Rend, right?
Okay.
Like that would be interesting to see, as opposed to the mechanic of the abusable stone.
The stone.
Yeah, and then keeping them back to like bravery buffs and rally buffs on the stone. That would be interesting because then you're more playing in an ambushy way that supports it, as opposed to a slowly spreading castle for a lot of people. So that would be interesting. That's just hopes and dreams.
It sounds a little bit, Matt, like depending on what this book contains, you might be tempted away from the Hedonites to the beasts. Are you on the fence, do you think?
I mean, I love my beasts. It's been hard not playing them because they're so good, and I want to be able to have fun with them. But there's been so many negative play experiences running up into people like mid-table, where they're like either really enjoying the army, just starting out, and like even when I'm making mistakes, I'm tabling them, right? Just because of the rend, they just have no way of dealing with it in the game. Certain armies, right?
Sure.
So like, I've had several experiences where guys are just like, okay, I'm done. There's nothing worse than walking up to a table and making somebody feel that bad.
I also feel like there's an experience problem with them as well. Like, I know what to expect from beasts, and like, yes, they hit hard, and yes, it could be negative. But like I've been running into that same thing with the Iron Jaws, because like this is an army that is designed to put you on the back foot, have you make some mistakes, and then exploit those mistakes as hard as I possibly can. You know what I mean? Like, and like a rule like smashing and bashing, where like, if I wipe a unit, I just get to fight again. You can suck it. I'm going to have 4 combats in a row.
And your army's going to go away. And
if you didn't position last turn such that I could get 4 easy charges, and you knew this was going to happen, then I wouldn't have 4 combats in a row where I wipe 3 units and potentially a 4th.
That is it in a nutshell, isn't it? Because that's when you sit there, you say, "Oh, really? That's how it works? Oh, I guess my run is done, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And it's kind of a gotcha. But what else can you do? Because if you try to over-explain that, you lose most of the advantage.
Yeah. And I think more so the ability to hop on from any edge of the table kind of deletes any of that, like, oh, well, you knew what you were going to do, right? Because when you're mid-game, like, how is somebody going to stop you from taking that backfield objective if they've had to commit so much without getting eaten up? And there are, like, special little rules. I think Beast of Chaos just has always had those strange tricks that no matter what, it's going to be, you're not going to know what to do with it in some points.
That's true, but back before the most recent, giant shot in the arm in White Dwarf, those tricks could be distressing, but they weren't like, I don't think they rose to the level of like a Feel Easy Bads. They kind of gotcha. Like, it wasn't like the massive rent pile on or anything like that. It was more like,
yeah, definitely.
A bunch of goatmen are here, but they'll still die.
Yeah.
No, it does feel a bit now like, oh, it's turn 3. Well, guess I better pack up.
Yep. Yeah.
Much like it does fighting Ideneth sometimes, for that matter.
Ideneth, for me, Charles is just turn 2. I'm just done because he's charged that stupid thing in and got like 500 attacks off of his leader. I'm
like, okay, or whatever with it.
Yeah,
that used to be. I mean, I guess before that there was the Morsar Guard spam. There have been some Ideneth moments for me as well, so I can appreciate that sentiment. Before we totally lose the thread, guys, on new year, new army sort of things, I'll say that I am going to be continuing with the Slaanesh theme, but I'll be moving on to, from the Grand Host of Slaanesh, the Slaves to Darkness Slaaneshis.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. Just quite enamored of like a sort of Lords of Chaos footless with a lot of Chaos Warriors and Chosen and an altar and some shenanigans there. Kind of just continued the growth of the gods' forces, but yeah, I went a little crazy theory hammering over here because I can't do any modeling or painting right now, of course.
Gotcha.
I've secured the services of a bunch of those old metal Slaanesh champion models, which I'll be using as the heroes.
Nice.
Yeah, I got the snaky guy and the fly crab guy. I have the 2 heads person with the axe, which Sean is procuring for me, as well as the old one of the book, which I'm using as a sorcerer. We had a couple more in there, and it's going to be fun days.
Nice.
I'm excited to see that. Maybe we should we should start start our next podcast with our lists for upcoming. How we're going to build for the upcoming year.
That sounds great.
Oh, good idea. That. Yeah, I like that.
Well, we'll make a plan of it.
Yeah.
Tune in next time to hear us read lists.
Talk about why.
Read them, but with relish. You kind of dive in, nerd out about what the visions of glory we each have. Yeah.
That sounds delightful.
I started writing bios for my characters.
Oh, good.
Yes.
No. I was reminded. Oh, does anyone remember? It was just from old Warhammer Fantasy. It's been making the rounds on Twitter, that the paragraph about Stillhammer. There was some guy worked at GW. His last name was Still, and basically it was start an army, write a 2,000 point list, model exactly those units. Write backstories and names for all of your units and regiments and characters. Never change your list. Never, ever change your list. Don't change your list again. Even in battles that are bigger points values, just keep playing your list and fight at a disadvantage.
It's a great way to learn your list. It's the best way to learn your list.
You've summoned it back. As jokey as that was, there is a certain allure to just say they've got out a campaign. We come what may. This is what's exactly. In the back is train. It's too good.
It's the only way to learn, trial and error.
Exactly. I think with that, we've come to a good place, and we should call it an episode.
Yeah, what an episode it was. Become one.
I concur.
Thanks to everybody for listening, and let us know what you thought. We're on Twitter at Always Strikes Last. No, we're just at Strikes Last. Man, I should have this written down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or follow me. I'm at ASL Miles. If we post about this episode, it'll be from both accounts, so it's not super hard to find.
Yeah, give us what are you guys doing for this coming year? We got a lot of new books, a lot of old books that are going to get a little bump. At least for this GHB. What are you all doing? Let us know.
Sounds good. And with that,
looking forward to it.
Striking. Who gets the last word strikes first.
Oh no! Shit, it's me.
Oh no! Okay, let's all just fade to silence. That way it's a 3-word time.